Hello, everyone, and welcome to my presentation. My name is Lena Kelfi. My pronouns are she, her, hers, Aya, and I'm currently 22 years old and a graduating senior with a major in communications and media studies and a minor in theater arts. And so I'll be presenting to you all about sexuality and sexual orientation today. And a little bit about me is I identify as a queer cis woman. Um, if you don't know the term queer, we'll be going over that in the presentation. And if you don't know what cis woman means, refer to Mia's amazing presentation about gender. And so I came out first as bisexual when I was a sophomore in high school. And sort of throughout the years of exploring and experimenting with myself a little bit more, I came to terms with the fact that queer, just as a sexuality and as a term, just felt a lot more comfortable for me. And I'll be going a little bit into why that is later in the presentation. I was also the QSA president in high school, QSA meaning Queer Straight Alliance, and I was also a peer mentor for this class for Thar160. And I also came into Thar160 as a freshman. So I went through the whole thing that y'all are going through as well. So it's a class that has a very special place in my heart, and I'm very honored to be able to give y'all this presentation. So without further ado, I will go ahead and share my screen with y'all and get started. And this is a presentation that I made for my own students when I was still a peer mentor last year. So first I have this fun little guess the pride flag activity. And so I will give y'all about 30 seconds to write down or maybe just think about your guesses of what these pride flags represent. Okay, that was admittedly a little less than 30 seconds, but the show must go on. So here are the results. The top left, we have pansexual, bottom left, bisexual, top right, gay, and bottom right, asexual. And if you are unfamiliar with any of these terms, then fret not, we will be going over them. So I have this fun little video. It's from BuzzFeed. Sexual preference is told through food, excuse me. Giving presentations virtually is a new skill that I'm acquiring. So I'll go ahead and play this for y'all.
Imagine a world where sexuality doesn't exist, and instead there are just people who like hot dogs and people who like tacos. Meet Tom. Tom likes tacos. Meet Jill. Jill likes hot dogs. Tom has always known he'd like tacos over hot dogs, so he never wanted to try a hot dog. Jill tried a taco or two in college, but they weren't to her taste, so she stuck with hot dogs. Now, meet Nick and Allie. Nick prefers hot dogs, while Allie prefers tacos. To Nick, there was something about hot dogs he always liked. He felt good and full and happy when he had hot dogs, while tacos, on the other hand, didn't feel right and gave him a stomachache. When Allie was a kid, she wanted to try tacos. She saw them on TV and billboards, and even though she had never had one, she knew she needed to try. And when she did, it finally made sense why she never enjoyed hot dogs this whole time. Rob and Casey like both hot dogs and tacos. It's not a matter of greed or confusion, they just happen to like both dishes. Sometimes, Casey might be more in the mood for one dish over the other, but she'll still enjoy both. When Rob eats a hot dog, it doesn't mean he stops liking tacos. All it means is that he's eating a hot dog. Now all these tacos and all these hot dogs are made up of different ingredients and have different toppings. There's so many possibilities. You can even have a taco dog. Sometimes a hot dog is better with taco toppings, or a taco is better with hot dog toppings. It doesn't matter so much what it's made of. If it's good, Mary Jo is open to it. Mary Jo is open to hot dogs, tacos, and everything in between. Speaking of ingredients and toppings, these are the main qualities Shane looks for in a dish. Shane needs to like the parts that make up the whole before determining whether or not they like the hot dog or a taco or something in between. Jordan generally doesn't like to eat hot dogs, tacos, or anything in between. Jordan is usually on a juice cleanse. Now if Tom, who likes tacos, didn't like Nick because he eats hot dogs, that would seem a bit silly. And when Allie likes tacos, it's not because she just hasn't had the right hot dog yet. It's because she likes tacos. And if anyone teased someone else because they didn't like the same food, or if they bullied them, or worse, then that would just seem ridiculous. because everyone has their own food preference. No one can change that. It's simply a part of a person, just like sexual preference. Because with all these amazing tacos, hot dogs, and taco dogs, with their countless ingredients and toppings, if we just accept Tom, who likes tacos, and Jill, who likes hot dogs, then we're not only limiting ourselves, that's just not how the world is. Like a buffet, there's so much variety with so many different preferences, and you know what? Each one is just as valid as the next. No one is better, no one is worse, just different. And that's okay.
Oop, I accidentally went to the next slide. So I personally really love that video just because it puts sexuality and sexual preference into very, very simple terms. And I personally really like the equation of sexual preference to food preference. It's very simple and it's just stuff that we as people like. So, and it's also very inclusive to a lot of gender expressions and gender identities, which hopefully y'all learn or have learned in Mia's presentation. And so I just really love it. And here I have a fun little quote from Lin-Manuel Miranda. And love is love is love is love is love, cannot be killed or swept aside. All right, so before I go into the chart of sexual identities and sexual preferences, I have a fun little slide for a little bit of definitions about some terms that I'll be using a lot. So first we have sexual orientation, which is an individual's sexual, romantic, and or spiritual attraction to others, often but not exclusively based on gender. And sexual orientation can actually fall into subcategories, or rather, there are subcategories of sexual orientation. So, first, we have sexual attraction, which is the affection towards someone who provokes the want to engage in physically intimate behavior, such as kissing, touching, and intercourse. Put in simple terms, sexual attraction is the people that you want to have sex with, people that you want to feel good with. And then there's also affectional or romantic orientation, which is the gendered pattern to which a person has romantic attraction and with which they fall in love or partner with, does not necessarily have to correlate with sexual attraction. So, what I mean by this, so your romantic orientation can differ from your sexual orientation. So say we have someone, let's call a girl Amy, and she is bisexual. She is sexually attracted and enjoys sex with both men and women and maybe more genders. So that's her sexual attraction or sexual orientation, but her romantic orientation happens to be hetero. So she is heteroromantic, bisexual. And heteroromantic means that she only can see herself and can only date men. So this means that she is heteroromantic, but she still enjoys sex and is still sexually attracted to both men and women and maybe more genders. And that does not invalidate either of her identities being heteroromantic or bisexual. She's still a valid individual. It just so happens that her romantic orientation doesn't exactly correlate with her sexual orientation, and that's fine. And then finally, we also have sexual preference, which is the types of sexual stimulation, gratification, and intercourse an individual likes to receive and participate in. Simple terms, it's what you like to do in the bedroom. So really quickly, I'll give y'all a couple seconds to just think about, maybe list or just keep a list in your head or on your phone or write down what sexual orientations you already know of. Okay, if you didn't get very far, that's all right. So here is my wonderful list of just a few sexual orientations. People are finding new ways to identify themselves every single day. So this is just a working list for y'all. And it's in alphabetical order, which makes me so happy. First, we have asexual, which is the low level or lack of sexual attraction to others. And I'll sort of be skimming through these definitions and going with a more simplified definition for y'all. So if you'd like, you can pause the video and read the more wordy and more sophisticated definitions, but I'll just be explaining them in my terms. So asexual basically means that a person either doesn't like sex, or maybe they're not sexually attracted to people, or maybe they are sexually attracted to people but just don't want to have sex. They don't enjoy that sort of physical intimacy with another person. All is valid. It really depends on the person, what this label means to them. Now we have bisexual, which is a person who is attracted to two or more genders. Contrary to popular belief, the prefix bi actually means two or more. And now we have homosexual, which is someone who is attracted to someone of the same gender. And under homosexual, we have gay, which traditionally has been used with men who are attracted to other men. But in recent years, it actually has been kind of used as a blanket term for anyone, regardless of gender, who is attracted to the same gender, and even uses a blanket term for people who are just generally not straight. And then we also have lesbian, which is an identified woman who is attracted to other identified women. Next, we have heterosexual, which is an individual who is attracted to members of the opposite sex. And then we have demisexual. And this is someone who doesn't feel any sort of sexual attraction or longing for someone until they formed like a strong emotional connection with the partner, usually within like a romantic relationship. So simply, demisexuals just don't feel that sort of sexual attraction to someone until they've formed like a strong emotional bond. And now we have pansexual, which is an individual who is attracted to all gender identities and expressions. But pansexual kind of means that someone is more attracted to someone's soul rather than what's between their legs or what gender they are or any one of a number of things. They're more attracted to the individual rather than their gender. And now we have queer, which is my favorite term personally. I really like queer because it's an umbrella term to describe like a non-heterosexual orientations. The definition can be personalized depending on who is using it. So for me, queer just means that I'm not straight. I first came out as bisexual, like I said, and then I kind of didn't like the sort of rigid two or more aspect of it. But also, I didn't feel exactly comfortable putting myself into the pansexual category. So, queer for me just feels very empowering, and I really enjoy it as just like a blanket, like, I'm not straight, I'm just attracted to people. So that's personally how I use it, but a lot of people use it differently. And so the best way is to just ask the individual who is using the term. Definitely ask in a respectful way, but yeah. Also, queer was previously a derogatory term, but has since been reclaimed by the LGBTQ community. So that's a fun fact. And then I also have just this fun little picture of the queer iceberg. You can take a look at that. And finally, in the presentation, just a reminder that sexuality is fluid. Just because you identify one way today doesn't mean that you're going to stick with that label forever, like I did. I kind of flip-flopped between labels for myself for a long time, and I found something that really feels comfortable for me now, but may not in the future. In the future, I might want to identify myself with a different orientation, and that's okay. You're always allowed to be your authentic self. People don't find out that they're queer or any one of a number of orientations sometimes until they're much later into their life, and that's totally okay. And just like food preferences, sometimes sexual preferences change depending on age and experience, and that's all valid and that's all okay. And that's it for my presentation. Let me stop sharing my screen. Hi. So thank you so much for watching this. Like I said, it's always an honor and a privilege to be able to give presentations for this class. It has a very special place in my heart, and I hope that I helped you out a little bit. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me. I'll ask Scott to put my email somewhere on Canvas. If y'all have any sort of questions regarding sexual identity, sexual orientation, or sexual preference, I would be happy to try to help you you out, or if you have any questions regarding the presentation, I would be happy to answer them. So thank you again so much. Bye.